So we've got a size 8 Skalka barbless Czech Nymph hook in the vise. We're going to apply our lead to weight the hook. We're going to use something a little different. This is a flat lead wire. Gives us a little bit better profile on this fly rather than the traditional round lead. So we're just going to start here, top of the bend of the hook, and we're just going to start to wrap this forward. It's pretty simple. Just make sure each turn just kind of butts up against the previous one. And we tie these flies with different amounts of weight so we can adjust on the stream to our conditions. So you can apply 1 layer, 2, 3, 4, 5, just as many as you want. You could also put a bead head on here if you wanted. Always need to have some real heavy ones on that middle position as we're fishing a Czech Nymph style. So this is the second layer of lead here. You notice I started this about 1 turn up from where I started that first layer. And when I get up here near the front, I'm going to trim it off just about 1 wrap shy of where I ended that first layer. And that just kind of helps me create that nice tapered shape I'm going for. So I think I got enough here. I'll do 1 more. Again, we'll just start that a little bit up ahead of that second layer. Just wind that forward. Probably easier to grab them with some hackle pliers here. This lead comes in 3 different sizes. This is the medium size. Make a wider one, which would just take less wraps, and then a smaller one for a smaller hook, of course. So now we've got our lead on there. We've got a nice shape. Just for a little added security, we can take a little head cement and just kind of let that soak in there. Now we'll get our thread started. Got some power silk thread here. Super strong stuff, pretty much unbreakable. It's a size 10 actually. I like to use fine threads. I can really cinch down on the materials and kind of disappear. Doesn't really matter which color you use. This is a black. You can tie different amounts of weight on your hooks and then use a different thread, and that'll kind of help you determine which ones are your light, medium, and heavy in your fly box. Now for the ribbing on the Czech Nymph, I'm simply going to use a piece of monofilament. So I've just got a spool of some tippet material. This is probably 4 or 5 pound. Again, you can just vary that depending on the size of your hook. Just tie that in right behind the eye and just kind of trap that all the way down the hook. It'll just kind of slide underneath and out of your way. That way I know it's in there real secure. It's not going to slip out. Adjust the hook a little bit and work down here near the back. Now we're going to put our shellback material, which is very unique. It's called magic shrimp foil. Comes in a bunch of different colors. This is the light green. Real nice flash in the water. Usually have one of these on my Czech Nymph rig. One of the positions. Little trick to tie this in is I just like to cut a little kind of an arrow point in the end here. Show you this in a second. Just kind of a little point there. Now what I can do is I can just lay this right on top near the bend and trap it. Trap that point and just stretch it just slightly as I secure it back down to where that monofilament ribbing is tied in. So we're all set there. We've got our ribbing and our magic shrimp foil. Now for dubbing on the Czech Nymph, really unlimited. You can use a lot of wild colors, pinks, reds, orange, or the more natural, the browns, the olives. I'm going to use another unique material. It's called a dubbing brush. Basically has all the fibers trapped between 2 really fine wires. So all I do is I strip off a little bit to get onto those bare wires. Tie that into position. This is where that power silk really helps because you can really add some tension to it. And now simply just wind this forward. Works great, saves me a lot of time, especially when I'm tying a ton of these Czech Nymphs. There's a nice slightly buggy appearance to it. I'm going to adjust this a little bit. Makes it much easier. Grab the end of this with the hackle pliers again and just bring this forward. You don't have to worry about not having too much dubbing or too little. You can use every little bit of these brushes. Then I come up about 2/3 of the way up the hook. Just tie that off and clip off the excess. Good to go. Now for the thorax, I like to use regular dubbing. Gives me a little bit buggier appearance for the legs. So we've got a nice dubbing here. It's a Pearl Hare's Ear Plus dubbing. It's got a nice shine to it. Real soft, easy to work with. The regular black color. Most of the thorax you want to go with something a little darker, browns, blacks. So since I want this buggy, I'm going to create a little dubbing loop here. I'm going to use our dubbing twister tool. Just insert your bit of dubbing into the loop. Just give this a couple slow turns to get it started. Then you can spin it with your thumb and it really spins for quite a while and locks all that dubbing in place. Then you come in here and pick out any lumps you might have, and we're just going to wind that forward. Just kind of fill in that little gap there between the body dubbing and the thorax here. Bring this forward. Just leave a slight little gap behind the eye, not much. Just enough to finish the fly at the end. Secure that. Now we can get rid of our thread here. I like to come in here with the little dubbing pick tool, kind of pick out some of these fibers on top, kind of move them over to the side. Don't really need any of the fibers on the top. Now you can come in here with some scissors and just kind of trim them off and make that transition there between the two dubbing types. Just makes that nice and even so you don't end up with a lump there. Just kind of trim down the back a little bit. Now I don't want to trim them all off, but just clean that top up a little. Get those out of the way. Now we're going to bring that magic shrimp foil over, just make sure it's kind of centered, and just give it a slight stretch. It's unique stuff. It just likes to mold itself right around the fly. Just hold it in position. A couple wraps of thread on here. And then you can get rid of this excess material. And just for safety at this point, I like to throw on a whip finish just to make sure that's not going to slip as I'm doing the ribbing. Now I like to come in here also real quick and just remove a lot of these really excessively long fibers. Just helps me when I do the ribbing. A few up here. Alright, I'm going to adjust the hook a little. I'm going to come around with the monofilament ribbing once onto the, so I'm on the bare hook now. Now I'm going to come up onto the fly, and I just use my thumbnail as kind of a guide, and just start that first wrap, kind of holds it in place. And all you really have to do is work your way up the fly. Just try to make each wrap, evenly spaced. Adjust this back again. And you don't have to put a ton of pressure on here, just enough to make that nice segmented body. Once up through the thorax, one more time. And because this monofilament ribbing is pretty slippery, I usually come around the hook twice there behind the eye. It helps secure it. And again, you can really apply some good tension with this thread. Make sure that ribbing's not going anywhere. Come in here and get rid of it. And we can do our final whip finish. Just to secure it all. That's not going anywhere. Get rid of our thread here. Come in here with just a real small little dab of head cement on those thread wraps. I like to come in here again and kind of pick out this dubbing here, the darker thorax dubbing. Don't want it too long. You don't want to slow this fly down. You want this thing to sink fast. So once I trim it, I'll make it nice and even. Come in here, just get these long ones out of the way. And we should be good to go. There's a couple more. Alright, so there's the pearl version of the Czech Nymph, tied with the dubbing brush for the body. Tie some of these up, give them a try on your next trip.